Oh my god. No! Oh my god, we were doing so... The start of the run was not great, but I didn't give up. This is how I completed Dead Space 2 on the most grueling difficulty, hardcore mode. In Dead Space 2, you have to complete any difficulty to unlock hardcore mode, which has minimal resources, high stress, and you are only allowed to save 3 times in the entire playthrough. Then to add, about 1% of gamers have ever completed this terrifyingly difficult challenge. So to start off, I didn't use any glitches. We are on a new game file and we are tracking the deaths. One of the things I learned when I was unlocking hardcore and playing zealot difficulty was that there are free weapons and rig suits that are available through the shop early on in the game, which allows us to get some good improvements to the plasma cutter, which is going to be our main gun. And then we're going to use the force gun, which is the get off me and wave clear tool. And then the upgraded forge suit that increases our healing consumption efficiency and some inventory slots. Then I had a plan for the first and the third save for where I wanted to use them. But the second save, I wasn't sure about where I wanted to use it yet. So the first save I wanted to use is around the point where we are entering the church, which is around chapter 5 or 6. And there are a total of 15 chapters in this game. So everything is going well in the first attempt, but then I find some necromorphs that have the most terrifying sound for this challenge. And if they get close enough to you, they just explode. Once I realize where they are, I try to use my stasis equipment on both the different exploding necromorphs so that I can get out of the blast radius before I shoot them. This doesn't work and my stasis duration runs out before I'm able to move away, and we move on to the next attempt where we really hit a big stride. So the first life, we only got to chapter 3 on the first attempt, which is awful. In this life, we have some rough moments leading up to our previous attempt, but I am able to keep away from the vents that had the exploding necromorphs that spawned in and got me last time, and I'm able to get to the church with some upgrades in damage for the plasma cutter. This brings us to chapter 4 inside the church. So upon entering, I loot up a bunch of items, which is going to be very common because it's actually so common that I need to be full of inventory, and if I find an additional healing item, I will use my kinesis to carry it until I need it. But we need to get to the bench where we're able to start doing some upgrades on our kit. Early on, I put a couple points to the plasma cutter as this is going to be the main weapon, but here I want to upgrade the rig so that we have a larger health bar and I don't lose a run where I am full of healing again, just don't have a big enough health bar to withstand the damage. So then we shop, and I have been able to stock up on healing items at this point, so I don't actually have to spend any money on this, but I do want to spend money on additional ammo in the plasma cutter. So after topping off our inventory, we make our way through this chapter with no problems, using the plasma cutters for the main necromorphs that need their limbs split apart and the force gun in those moments I'm not ready for enemies or it's just a bunch of little guys. After being forced into clearing waves of necromorphs, we come out doing pretty well and head into chapter 5. After solving a couple puzzles with the stasis tool and then flying in zero gravity, we are able to find the schematic for the medium-sized medical kit. This is pretty much the only schematic I wanted in the entire run, as we're going to be buying a lot of these throughout the challenge, which the main difference between the small and the medium is that the medium costs a little bit more to buy, but it does heal more, which helps with inventory management as well. At this point, I have my plasma cutter upgraded to be max on damage, and then put additional points into my rig to increase my health bar again, and a point of damage into the force gun to clear the power nodes that I have accrued at this point. Progressing through, we have to have a small fight with the Tormentor, I guess is his name. I had to look it up. Then we get to use the force gun to line up the smaller necromorphs and blast them to save as much ammo as possible. After this, we get to the room that is right before we meet Dana, and we make our first save in the challenge. Right after this, we learn that Dana isn't really on our side, and then Isaac is able to make his escape. After having a huge necromorph go fight the gunship that has been chasing us, we have a bunch of cinematics happen that push us to chapter 6, and we are back in the apartments on the facility. Once we clear through a mandatory fight, we're able to shop again, but my inventory is looking pretty good, and I want to be conservative on overbuying because I may need it later. Next up, we are introduced to what are called cysts. Pretty much these necromorphs can't move, are hiding very well, and if you get too close, they will blow you up. So we don't like them. Then we get to solve a puzzle where there is a fire in the way, and I have completely forgot how to do this. And then I remember that by removing air from the room, the fire will suffocate them and we are able to continue. Finally, we get to fight our first stalkers, who I like to compare to as velociraptors because they hunt in packs, have scary audio when you are not ready, and killed me a ton of times in my Zealot playthrough before this. After doing this room, normally where I'm constantly on the defense, I found that I was right next to the door that I need to head to, and decided I was just going to head there and put my back to the door so that they only have one way to come at me from. When I did this, I got rid of 2 stalkers and then noticed that the music theme changed to where there weren't any stalkers anymore. At this point, I wasn't sure if I despawned them or the timing of me heading to the side of the room was in coincidence with how many were left, but we were able to make progress. Shortly after, we meet Ellie, and then after this, she avoids us, but we're able to make a shop and continue the trend of keeping our inventory full. We then make it to the daycare and find an additional small heal pack, so that way we can take it with us on our journey and constantly shoot it down the halls in case we need it. When fighting the baby necromorphs, I tried to blast them because I was sure that they exploded. Oh, I thought they'd blow up. They do. And then after playing with the kids, we find ourselves in a bad situation where Ellie is above us, we lose power, and then there is a big bad necromorph that drops down to attack us, but I'm ready for him.
Oh, yeah.
Making our way to chapter 7, we were able to shop again and upgrade the force gun a bit more. Then there are some zero gravity portions we get to, and then the scary elevator ride where we have 7 different windows that large necromorphs will hang on to and try to attack me. In this fight, I get to blast them and watch them leave the window, listen to them crawling on my elevator's roof, and then they will randomly appear in one of the available windows. Also, there are eventually more of them, and we can get overwhelmed pretty quickly. After riding to the top, there are more assists to clear out, and we can grab more loot. Upon exiting, I can't find one of them that I hear, and I believe that I'm in the clear, but find out that it was waiting above the door that I need to go out, and I have a small scare. Coming up is a computer program that doesn't like us trying to get through, so we need to shoot a body at the first door to trick it into unlocking for us, as the body has authority to go through this door. Then it realizes that we went through the door with the body, and it wants a verbal access code to authorize us, which isn't possible because he ain't alive. So the next set of rooms are potential run killers if we don't take our time and aren't paying attention to the traps and enemies that are coming up next. These include lasers that if we walk through them, we're just going to instantly die, which we can use our kinesis on to grab an object and shoot it through the lasers to set them off from a distance. The next room has necromorphs, which aren't really the problem here. The problem is that if I accidentally blow up a red canister next to a door that is keeping us separated from the vacuum of space, then we will have to immediately shoot the door to force the metal door closed. But the risk is that we could have had an instant death. So to avoid this, I use kinesis to pull the red canisters as far away as possible from the door so that I can blast the necromorphs without this risk. After we go up the lift and head into the next area, the AI lady still isn't happy that we continue to progress through the facility and takes away our life support where there are stalkers in the room with us. So we need to clear them out and do this pretty quickly as I haven't increased my oxygen tank at all. We get through here no problem and do a puzzle to get us access to the computer mainframe. Next up, we get to go out into space and realign the solar arrays. Out here, we get to worry about a necromorph that shoots missile necromorphs at us while constantly having to worry about oxygen and then also ensuring that we gather as much loot as possible again. After this, Isaac needs to rush down to where Ellie and Strauss are, and we essentially blast him from space and into the buildings below. But during this, we have to control Isaac to make sure we don't run into any of the debris, which can kill us in one hit. But we're able to get through no problem and have to deal with one of the biggest hordes of necromorphs we fight in the game. In the middle of this fight, we have a leaper land into the area and, I'm not even joking, immediately turn on a dime and jump at me. Then as soon as it stuns me, he attacks again while the other one is closing the distance too. So here I panic, swap to the force gun as soon as he leaps, and consume some healing at the same time. Then blast him away to reset this interaction as I was caught off guard. Shortly after the door opens, I rush in as I know that I don't need to hang out here because once the doors close, it's safe and the enemies will continue to spawn until I leave. So this brings us to chapter 8. We are able to shop and refill our inventory, and then we have a pretty small room where necromorphs are attacking from both sides. Here I do get grabbed and need to heal right away, but after this initial oversight, we are able to continue through a zero gravity area that requires me to grab a canister that we stick to an end of one of the hatches. Then we dodge some large machinery, and then we fight a necromorph while ensuring I don't go into a ring of fire that constantly moves. Eventually, our second save is when we meet up with Ellie and Strauss to try and figure out where we are going to continue progressing. This is in chapter 8, and there are a lot of moments that we can instantly die. And it took me 2 hours to make this progress from the first save, so I was getting kind of nervous and wanted to save. Our current mission is to fix and bring the train down to Ellie and Strauss so that way we can get out of here. And at this point, I only have one more save and I want to save it for chapter 13. So we have a lot of progress to make and I can't afford to die. The first fight we do after this is go through a room full of stalkers, and then I know for a fact that there are 2 of the exploding necromorphs. I know this because in my Zealot playthrough, I died to this room a ton, so I can't get greedy. We progress through the ship and survive an explosion, but then the tracks are destroyed. And now we need to board the Ishimura to help the train get across. This ship is the one that we played the entire first Dead Space game on, and there's a lot of potential to lose my progress from the most recent save. Boarding the Ishimura, we are in chapter 10. Navigating through the ship, we got a long stretch where I know that we need to fight 2 of those tanky necromorphs. After this part, the rest is pretty low maintenance, and we are pretty much on cruise control throughout the rest of the ship. I finally get enough power nodes to max out the health bar to its maximum, which is going to help with surviving, obviously. And then after we get the train to go across, Isaac takes an escape pod to get across as well, and then we are on to chapter 11. So the first fight here is some stalkers that are enhanced versions, meaning that they are stronger than the previous ones. Then we have another outer space section that requires us to move lasers that are blocking us from progressing. And then after this section, we have a pretty chaotic fight and continue to trek through the caves. Eventually, we avenge Ellie, who lost her eyeball, and get rid of Strauss. We then get to ride up the scary elevator that will eventually get us to Ellie, so that way we can get on the huge vehicle that drills through the cave. With the force gun, I'm able to blast off most of the enemies over the side of the elevator. And then at the drilling truck, we enter chapter 12. This entire chapter is us riding on the top of the truck, blasting everyone with the force gun, and then downrange are some smaller enemies that shoot at us with their tentacles. And this sequence takes us a bit, but we survive pretty well. Then we get to the government sector that is holding the marker that Isaac needs to destroy. Upon gaining access to the facility, I use my last save right here, which is good because shortly after we have our second death. So after we do the eye surgery successfully, we get to deal with a regenerative necromorph that you cannot kill. You can only blast off its limbs and stasis it to slow it down, so that way you can try to run. So we're forced to run through a series of doors that are filled with necromorphs of every single type, and boy do they stress us out here. So reloading the save point at the beginning of the entrance to the government sector, we get to fight through the basic waves again, and then I learned from my previous life where I need to put a power core where there are some stalkers, and that I don't need to fight them all. So we blast the one that we need across the room to where we need to input it, safely make our way there, and continue to an area that we have to run past lasers that one-shot us, and the stasis doesn't slow them down. But with my determination and unbreakable will, we never get touched in the whole run by these environment one-shot traps. We then make it to the last shop in the game, and we are so scarce on equipment that I sell everything that I've stored in the bank over time to ensure that I have a ton of ammo and healing to get through the last segments. In the sprint section where we are being chased by the regenerative necromorph again, I'm pretty sure we use most of our materials here as I start to panic while waiting for the door and trying to get out of there quickly. We eventually get to the last segment, which is pretty much a boss fight. So at the end, we have to attack Nicole so that we're able to blast the marker. But some of the scary points here are that Nicole can teleport to you, and if she grabs you, it's an instant death. Then there are a bunch of children necromorphs that attack in waves, and we just have to keep them away from us while we shoot at Nicole. Then damage the marker, ensuring Nicole doesn't grab us, and keep the enemies away. Then realization hits when I am very low on healing and have 0 plasma energy to shoot my highest damage weapon, the plasma cutter, and the force gun doesn't have range. So in desperation, I use the alternate fire mode of the force gun to reach the marker when it's vulnerable. And I realize pretty late that the small necromorphs can drop items. This is desperately needed with a combination of healing to immediately consume, and whatever plasma energy I get needs to go into my empty plasma cutter, reload it, so that way I can use it to damage the marker. Here's how it goes. At this point, my heart is absolutely racing, as I didn't think I was going to finish this with so little resources. But I'm able to complete Dead Space 2 on hardcore mode, and we did it with only 2 deaths. If you like this type of content, make sure to like the video and stick around, as we are only getting started on the hardest things in gaming. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.